Good morning and welcome to the JDC West 2016 Entrepreneurship Case Presentation, proudly presented by EMCO. Thank you for being here today. I want to thank our judges, and I'll do a quick introduction. Sean Kelly from EMCO, Paul Ganger from EMCO, Joanne Fisher from Scotiabank, Jill Hobbs from the College of Agriculture and Bioresources, Dominic Thibodeau from Federated Cooperatives Limited, Jacqueline Cook from Vendesta. Competitors, you have 23 minutes today to do your presentation. Immediately following the presentation, we'll ask you to exit. I will be timekeeping for you today. The first 5 minutes is considered protected time. No questions will be asked at that time. At the 5-minute mark, I will knock on the table and present a card to you. It'll be unprotected time where the judges will be able to ask you questions. At the 20-minute mark, I will knock again, and it'll be protected time will be started. No questions will be asked. Audience, no questions, comments, cell phones, or picture taking will be permitted from the audience at any time. Please ensure that your cell phones are off or on vibrate. Audience, please only applaud at the end of the presentation, and we ask that you exit immediately following the presentation so that the judges can do their scorecards. Just give me a minute. I want to confirm that you're Team J.
Ladies and gentlemen, today our business idea is called Renoplace. Renoplace is an online marketplace to find local construction service workers. I want to personally take the time to explain why this business idea is extremely important to me and my colleagues today, and why we're willing to run through a brick wall to make this dream happen. And that story takes place in Rwanda, Africa. And this is a true story. I worked there this past summer, and I did small business consulting for a nonprofit. And my neighbor actually was a man named Daniel. And Daniel at the time was going through a home renovation and home expansion. So he needed these equipments and materials to install. So he was looking for some installers, but he didn't want to pay a premium to these big box retailers for installation. But because Daniel lived in a very small village, he knew the perfect local player to call at a local price. So he picked up the phone and he called the guy named Bob the Builder. When I came back to Canada, I knew this wasn't being done, despite it being a $500 million market. The local players in Canada were struggling because they lacked exposure to our busy lives consumers. And they didn't know any better, so they resorted to Home Depot and Home Hardware for these premium installation fees. Renoplace can change that. Renoplace can be that platform where these local players can expose themselves and build a reputation through our reviews. And the busy city lives consumers of Canada can get their information on the local players now. We want to bring that small Rwanda village feel to Canada. My name is Jared, this is Patricia, and that's Jason, and our team is extremely qualified for this business. Patricia has actually spent some time in Africa as well. She spent some time in Ethiopia, and she's actually built the website for a construction developer there. And Jason has spent over 7 years in construction development, helping out with his dad, and I've completed several internships in clean tech investing. And today, we're asking for $750,000 for 25% equity on a $3 million valuation.
So, Jared did a fantastic job of telling you exactly why we're here. I want to tell you about the opportunity that presents itself specifically in Saskatchewan. So if you look at the retail market in general, you see that there's two key players. There's the contractors, and you see that there's the homeowners. The homeowners typically buy their products from a lot of different places, but it's expensive. When they get this work contracted, which is about 25% of all the materials cost, it creates these huge problems for them in that they can't afford to live in these areas. Furthermore, it's difficult to determine quality. When you go to a contractor, how do you figure out exactly what kind of quality that guy's gonna give you? You go for one thing, he's obviously gonna tell you he's the best of the best and he can do it at the cheapest prices. But at the end of the project, often you find that your job's half finished, but the guy wants his money right now. For the contractor, you see that he gets his job based purely on his network. When he goes, he gets a lot of his friends and his family, and he hopes for the best. But there's no platform out there for him to advertise his services. He also has a problem getting paid on time. He can do quality work, but I know from personal experience, getting paid is one of the most difficult tasks. People are happy and willing to work with you up until the point that you have to pay for it. And then they're like, oh, sorry, I don't have the money. I'll wait another couple weeks. Meanwhile, your kids are at home starving and you don't know how to feed them. So they also love being independent. So with the solution is that we can provide an online marketplace for these services. What this provides for the contractors is it allows them, like I said earlier, to advertise their services. The key thing is that they're rated by people who used to work with them. Because they're rated, we can assess their quality ahead of time and know exactly what we're going to get. Also, as long as the service is done correctly, they're guaranteed to get paid. Because when consumers sign up on our platform, they have to give credit card information. Unless there's a dispute, the money flows seamlessly from one person's account to the other. Furthermore, by creating a marketplace, you get competitive pricing. You look at examples like Amazon, and they brought retail prices for everything down. Because all of a sudden, that information asymmetry that used to exist is no longer there because we can check everything. So what it does is it allows for affordable home pricing, and it also allows for rental units to be built and all those other kinds of great things that people need in order to live a great life. So let's look at the size of the market. So you look at it, and there's about 33 million Canadians, and there's 1 in every 2.5 households. If you assume that they spend, on average per year, $3,000 on a home improvement, and that 25% of that goes towards labor, and that we can charge a 5% transaction fee, you have a $495 million market in Canada alone. So I'm going to pass it off to Patricia to talk and paint a very clear picture of how this product is going to work.
Thank you very much, Jason. Mr. Paul Granger, suppose you've just moved to Saskatoon and you need to build a fence around your house. It's a beautiful house. What can you do? Well, as my colleague stated, you have options of asking your friends or family or going to Home Depot. Not so much with Rent-A-Place. Let me walk you through the steps you would take. First of all, you would create an account and sync your location as well as your credit card information to our secured payment system. Then you have the opportunity to browse talented contractors and their portfolios. Finally, you can either post or inquire about a specific contractor if you're interested in him. Finally, we have templated contracts that will then be signed through our secure web system, and the work begins. Once the work is completed and the contractor uploads proof of the work completed, such as pictures or videos or hours logged, and that has been checked, we will then automatically transfer the money through our payment system. And finally, we really love this part because this contributes directly to our trusted marketplace, is both you and Bob the Builder have to switch mandatory reviews. What that means and what that communicates to the rest of the marketplace is that Bob the Builder is a trusted contractor who delivers on his promises, and that you, sir, are a wonderful person to work for. So what does this look like for Bob the Builder? Well, he has the option to browse open and posted projects in his area. He has the option to set up not only his own profile, but a nice, beautiful portfolio where he can easily share projects that he's worked on. More professional than Facebook and less of a hassle than making his own website. He can view his current and pending contracts. And finally, there are forums and guides available for contractors much like him to find the support they need in their day-to-day lives. We have features such as the rating system, the hours worked this week, how much Bob has earned with us, and finally the types of contracts and at what progress they are currently. So taking a look at the business ecosystem, what do we do? Rent-A-Place essentially builds a bridge between homeowners who value superior service and all kinds of contractors.
How do we get access to all of those different contractors?
Wonderful question.
That's a fantastic question. If you could go to the go-to-market slide. So let's look at it. Let's look at that contractor specifically. Most contractors are small and independent. They work have 1 to 10 people within their company. And that's a specific type of person we're targeting. Someone who's entrepreneurial in nature, who wants control of their own business, but doesn't want to have to go through the process of marketing on their own. What we want to do is we want a partnership with the trade schools. We want a partnership with trade associations, places where these people are typically involved on a daily basis. So these are organizations that they trust, and they're places where people will actually listen to. By partnering with them and showing them the benefits of our platform, what happens from there is that people are more willing to adopt the product because it's coming from someone that they trust. That's the key way to get access to those people.
How does Emco make money?
So in the beginning of the presentation, we talked about how this business is a dream of ours, but every business and every dream needs fuel. So that's where the money comes in to answer your question. Now, before we begin, at the end of this segment of the presentation, I want to convince you guys of 2 things: that this business is profitable and scalable, and second, we'll have a razor-sharp focus on our top-line growth. So let's go under a microscope and see what happens when we actually shake our hands with our customers. So let's assume per year or on an average transaction, the installation fee comes to about $3 grand. What we do is if they do that transaction over our website, we charge a 5% fee on it, and that gets us a pure margin of $150. So the question is, why 5%? And there's 2 things to that. Number 1 is comparables. When we look at similar companies like Odesk and TaskRabbit, who does have a similar business model but not necessarily a competitor, they charge about 10%. They charge 10% because their average transaction is a lot smaller than $3,000. But because our average transaction is a lot larger, we justify charging 5% would be a reasonable price. Now, the second question is the question.
Sorry, who's paying the 5%?
At the end of the day, it'll end up evening out due to price economics, but then we are expecting that the customer ends up paying the premium on top of the services.
Okay, so it's $3,000 plus 5%.
That's right.
The cost of the homeowner now, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. The question is, would the customer pay 5% of the installation fee to efficiently search the best installer in town? And our answer confidently was yes. Now, let's zoom out and take a big picture of the company. I know there's a lot of things happening on this graph, but this is really important. And the 2 takeaways from this graph is that, number 1, we're going to be a $6 million company by the end of year 5. And that's going to be on an average of 100 transactions per day, Canada-wide. The second thing is we are going to be cash flow negative in the first 2 years. And as investors, that's where you guys come in. We are asking for $750,000 for 25% of our company, and that $750,000 goes towards salaries and wages, sales and marketing, all of which is all in our first year, and then we'll reserve $350,000 for our burn rate the year after, and then we are expecting to be cash flow positive.
Can I ask, back to maybe the earlier question, for this to work, you have to have a bunch of contractors in your system that you evaluate and you know they're reliable. So how do you start that process? I mean, where are these contractors? If you're Canada-wide, how do you identify them to start with?
That's a great question. In short, we're going to be starting right here in Saskatoon. We think it's a beautiful market to start. And then we'll be expanding to various locations and cities across Canada based on 3 things. So first, the first thing we'd like to consider is the number of current homes in the area. Secondly, in the future, the growth of homes projected. And finally, the cost of renovation spent per household per province. And we'll talk through all of that later when we reach our project pipeline.
Can you just speak to the competition in the industry? So the numbers of other companies that are doing this right now, what sets you guys apart?
Great, I can answer that. Let me bring you back to our differentiation slide. In terms of the competitors in the industry, there's actually no one who's doing what Renoplace does, is that it's creating a marketplace for construction work. So the businesses that my colleague Jared mentioned are actually just using the same business model. For example, TaskRabbit is sort of like a Craigslist, but for tasks. Small administrative things, such as taking my laundry and dropping it off or mowing the lawn. Not so much these large ticket projects that we are hoping to deliver, and also these relationships that we're hoping to build. In terms of differentiating ourselves, we do hope to build, first of all, a transparent and engaging platform. Secondly, key partnerships with EMCO as well as trade schools to find these contractors who are looking for work. And finally, because we are the first to market, we are going to be the first to scale. And hopefully you can see this when we talk about our implementation plan. So as any contractor knows, a house is built from the ground up. And as any good business owner knows, the foundation for a good business are its 3 founders. And that's why, thank you, thought about that one for a long time. That's why we're so excited today to share with you our management philosophy. We're looking for enthusiastic people just like us who are very, very excited about building this marketplace. So, back to the 3 founders. Who are we and what are the roles we're going to be taking in the first couple years to really make your capital stretch as far as it can? Our joyful Jason will be taking on sales and marketing. Jared will be doing growth and financing. And yours truly, Patricia, I will be taking care of all web operations and back-end capabilities.
Yeah, so if I'm a contractor and I'll say I'm a plumber, and where am I going to be ranked, and how do I make sure that I'm on the top of the list every time? And the more you bring into this, the worse my odds. So tell me about the scalability in that.
So fantastic. If you could go to the next slide. So one of the things that we have on there that we want to develop is an online training platform as well. For that specific question you just mentioned, how do I ensure my ratings are high? How do I make sure that people come back to me? And how do I make sure I continue going forward? So the key thing is by having this platform online, you show people the direct steps that lead to success. You show them that, okay, you do the work that you guarantee and make a setup right at the beginning. Set quality standards at the beginning with your client. Here's a contract to sign with them, and here's all the different steps you do. And by getting on board right at the start, they know how to get their ratings high. If they get a poor rating and they disagree with that rating, they can contact us, and our resolution team, which consists of us 3, will go to the site and see if there's actually anything wrong with it and if that rating was justified or not.
All right, wonderful. So let's run you through our project timeline based on the criteria I discussed before. Absolutely, we are starting right here in Saskatoon and then taking a look into Ontario, specifically Toronto, where we do currently have the largest number of households, the largest number of projected growth in households, as well as the largest number of spending per household per province. From there, we floated down to Vancouver, Calgary, Quebec City, and Winnipeg. By year 3, we hope to be in all major cities in Canada. Finally, we can't do it alone. So as we continue to grow, these are the types of people we hope to hire. And with your extensive networks, we know we can find the best people to join our team.
Why start with Saskatoon if Toronto's the largest market there?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So based on the market research that we did, we felt that Saskatoon is actually a very viable market for several reasons. In terms of technology, Saskatoon is one of the top 2 cities in Canada in terms of developing these capabilities. As well, we really believe in that village feel that Jared talked about in Rwanda. I think Saskatoon is a perfect place to start with these close communities, great partnerships, and wonderful companies.
So you speak a little bit about customer acquisition costs. Can you speak to what a potential lifetime value of these contractors are at? Like how many transactions as a user am I actually going to do on the platform in my lifetime?
Fantastic. So if you go to the next one, we said that the acquisition cost was about $60. When Jared told you his margin, it was about $150. So right away, as soon as you can acquire a customer, they're profitable at that point. The key thing is that we're hoping to drive up the number of transactions that they have. If you assume that they come back to this platform every 5 years when they do their next renovation, that increases their value exponentially as they continue to come back for future renovations. So, speaking of the target market, let's talk about them for a little bit. So the number 1 person we want to go after right away in terms of who's going to use this platform is someone between the ages of 25 to 34. Mainly towards the younger end of that segment, because these are the people who are going to be first-time home buyers. They're going to market and they're thinking, okay, how do I get a home that's actually affordable? What you can do on this is by having reducing the renovation costs, you can buy an old beat up home, come onto the platform and renovate for cheaper than ever before. By partnering...
Sorry, how does this translate into cheaper when there's a 5% premium?
So, one of the things is if you go to a place like Home Depot or any of those other places, their markup on their products is way higher. They just don't tell you that that's the markup. We're open, transparent, and talk about exactly what we charge you right off the bat.
Where are you getting your product? Where are the contractors getting the products?
The contractors provide the contracting services. So they come in and they're the installers of your flooring and all those kinds of other services that happen. You have to get the product and you can work with the contractor to determine the best places to get those products. So one of the other things is that we want to ensure that when these people come out of university and college, that they have a place to live, that they don't have to go somewhere else to find work because the housing's too expensive. By this solution, it helps them. Furthermore, we talked a lot about these small companies that we want to recruit to get on board. And I think one thing I really want to emphasize at the start for gaining traction is that the solutions you use in the first year are not the solutions that you're going to use in year 5. At the very beginning, you have to target your early adopters with boots on the ground. That means us three, whenever we're not doing any of the other things that we listed out, we have to be doing sales. We have to be going door to door and seeing who is willing to sign up for this platform. That's the thing with the startup. We all have to do a ton of work right off the bat in order to get that payoff later on. With the marketing message we want to send, we want to let people know that the grass can be greener. At Rent a Place, by signing up with us, you can improve your life. You can go forward and get the house that you want for the price that you want to pay. By establishing those values, you create a connection with the consumers. You create that connection that you're involving a whole community together and you're bringing people together. You're not necessarily having those big organizations that you always have to go to, ask, they're slow, they're immobile. It's connecting people directly.
Can we move on to the financials and see the growth projection that you guys have?
Yep.
So why don't we actually talk about growth, because that's exactly what we were going to next. So in year 1, go back to growth. So in year 1, we projected only about $15,000 in revenue. Why? It takes about 6 months to get this project up and going. It's going to take us time to build the platform and time to create those connections. So right off the bat then, by going with that, we can get about 100 transactions in year 1. But then when you go to year 5, we're projecting $5.76 million in revenue. As Jared mentioned, that averages about to 100 transactions per day. We think in 5 years, it's very reasonable to get this much revenue. Why? Let's look at the market size. That's $495 million. That's assuming less than almost a 1% penetration rate. There's so much room in here that even for the competitors we listed before, there's room for us and there's room for them. There's space to grow. But more importantly, there's other potential too, with growth opportunities with the business model we've described. So if you go forward, there's more opportunities to make sure that this investment isn't just a great one like we've presented to you today, but it provides you with that investment that can make you 10 times return on your investment, potentially 100. The one that makes sure that you can go and live the rest of your life in Hawaii, sip pina coladas, and never have a worry again. What does that mean? That means expanding to the US. The US market is about 10 times the size of this one. Furthermore, B2B sales. A lot of construction companies also need contractors. They need to come on and get these people to work for them because they want it at a lower price and they need an open market to reduce that cost. Furthermore, we can expand this model into other services as well once we prove that it's successful. That means we can go into event planning, wedding, as long as we are the creators of that marketplace.
So I think we did a good job of communicating that we're very excited about this idea and we're very excited about launching this product. But there's always questions in the investor's mind. Can these founders handle the business 5 years and now? And we want to communicate that by saying we compare the cost of year 1 and year 5 and we thought of all the contingencies that could happen. So in year 1, as you can see, the letters are quite small, but the green is sales and marketing and orange is salaries and wages. So in year 1, our sales and marketing expense is a bigger piece of the pie, whereas in year 5, once we develop the brand and the reputation, we're more concerned about our maintenance, our quality. It's hard to make sure our web development is on point and make sure that our quality is on point for our loyal customers every time.
All right, so let's put it all together and really communicate to you where you fit in, what our goals are, and how you can help us get there. The 2 stars I'd like to point out. First of all, 6 months in, we will be launching in Saskatoon. Finally, at the beginning of the 2nd year, we will have reached our milestone of 100 transactions. Now, how do we get there? First of all, We've established a wireframe today. Through your capital, we can establish a minimum viable product and continue iterating. And finally, by year 5, we will hit that milestone of 40,000 transactions.
So the risks and mitigations, we can talk about them later after this, but I want to stress that the grass really is greener and we're looking forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.